there's an interesting discussion that's emerged following what happened in Nashville, where they're saying, a bunch of conservatives are like, maybe we shouldn't allow trans people to have guns or something like that. And I'm just like, not interested in that. Not interested in that conversation. If someone poses a clear and present danger, or I mean, they're literally on the path to using a weapon, you can stop them. But short of, I guess, due process, maybe they committed a felony and a court has determined through
somehow,
a legal due process, your rights cannot be infringed upon.
Well, and you bring up a good point. Everyone wants to talk about the gun thing. Well, the government has guns. I mean, criminals have guns. Everyone already has guns. The guns shouldn't even be the discussion.
You said the ssame thing twice. What was that?
Oh, yeah, the criminals and the government. Yeah, exactly. But they all have guns, so that shouldn't be the discussion. If trans people have guns, fine. If the LGBT community wants to have guns, that's fine.
They should have guns.
Everyone can have guns. Let's talk about other things instead. But gun owners, and I'm just going to say that, are some of the biggest wusses out there. They really are. In 2020, we saw this because for the longest time, gun owners were like, we have guns for the government. And then 2020 happened, and we had the Antifa stuff and the peaceful times, obviously. And then they went, oh, there's other people with guns who aren't our friends. We need to do something about that or have the government step in. And it's like, no. Don't ask for the government to step in. You're having them do what we don't want them to do to us.
What you do is you train.
Exactly.
That's what you do.
Yeah, just be better than everyone.
Because most people aren't going out there and training. I mean, I'm a guy that's very pro get out there and train. Go out there and learn how to shoot your guns. I mean, Lucas knows how to shoot guns. Ask Lucas.
When did you guys get interested in guns? Is this something you grew up with? Is there something that happened that made you interested?
I played Call of Duty, and that was enough for me.
It's the video game gun pipeline. I see.
Video games are the gateway. The gateway. They create more gun owners than the NRA ever hopes to. The NRA's dying.
But the NRA is
they're gone.
Yeah, I'm
gone.
not a big fan.
But yeah, video games. Absolutely. The Call of Duty franchise, which I'm very thankful I got to work on the good one that came out a few years ago.
Guys, the NRA is very important.
So fun.
It's a very important organization. We need to make sure that the NRA...
We got to donate a lot of money.
We need to make sure that the NRA is out there, so that way they've got something to attack.
Didn't the NRA support the NFA?
Oh, they've supported. So the NRA has done some good things, like the Sunset Clause for the weapons assault ban and all that. But for the most part, they are extremely fuddy. The worst thing about the NRA that people won't talk about is their training programs, which are they have a rule. You are not allowed to call a gun a weapon.
NRA?
It's too dangerous.
Well, it is a gun. And real quick, explain fuddy to people who don't know.
So fuddy are people who go, 1911 is better than any pistol out there. Won 2 world wars. My SKS is better than an AR-15.
It's still very esoteric.
It's very esoteric.
So I don't want that plastic stuff on my rifle.
It's a reference to Elmer Fudd.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's old times, more or less. These people, not getting with the times.
These people who are like, look, I'm a gun owner and I think we should have gun control. And it's I don't believe
generally that. We don't need 30 rounds for hunting, so let's ban 30 round high capacity magazines to go to 10 rounds.
Do you see deer running around in Kevlar? What do you need that for?
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it. But yeah, the NRA, the worst thing is not their political stuff. It's the firearms training. It's the culture that they're perpetuating to even hunters education. Don't store ammunition with a gun. What? The gun's pretty useless without the ammunition. You actually want to keep them together because weapons are for people, not just for Bambi.
Well, but these
people, they train them young that way.
These people have never loaded a weapon.
No.
And so I can tell you this, right? I got a 30-30 Winchester repeater. It's amazing. And it's real difficult to load the 30-30s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They get stuck. The plunger gets stuck and all that stuff. And then when it comes to loading even a Glock with 9mm, they have speed loaders for a reason. Yeah. If you're trained and you practice, you can load it fairly quickly. But I just think anybody who has a gun understands that if you hear a glass shatter and then someone yell, "All right, boys, let's go," you're gonna be like, "Uh-oh," and then you're gonna open the box and you're gonna be like, "Just give me a second, let me push these in and load this." No, it has to when you are being prepared for self-defense, you need to have your weapon prepared and safely secured in a way that you can access it and that it's responsible. But what's the point? Someone told me this when I was asking, around the first time I was getting a weapon, what's proper storage and safety protocol. And I'm going to keep it relatively vague for the show, but they just basically said, what's the point of having a weapon if you can't readily access it to defend yourself from an intruder? So just consider that.
Yep. And then have a serious conversation with yourself. What is a gun for?
Yeah.
They are for Homo sapiens. They were designed ever since gunpowder was, developed, and then it was used for fireworks to disrupt cavalry charges. After that, it was always weaponized for human beings. It wasn't just made for hunting Like that is what they're for. And the problem is gun owners.
Well, it's a weapon.
Every time I say that, they go, oh, Lucas, you can't say that because then the left's going to use that to ban stuff. I'm like, no, the reason we're in all this mess and gun regulations are happening is we've always been on the defense and culturally we're losing because of it.
Yep.
We won't just say the facts and what's going on.
I think it's fair to be more general. Weapons are for destructive ends.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean it's always bad. Destructive things can be good things, right? If you're defending someone. A machete, for instance, you're using it to go and clear brush, to carve a path through the woods, to help people more freely move about. But it's also can be used as a weapon.
Yeah.
And famously, Alfred Nobel made dynamite, TNT. I don't know if it's the same thing, but TNT, I guess, because he wanted to help people mine. And then they called him the Merchant of Death. And they you know the story, like they accidentally published his obituary. And then he was like, is that what they think of me? He's like, holy crap. That must be brutal.
Know that he read his obituary before he passed.
Yeah, and then he made the piece, the Nobel Prizes. He was like, I better be known for something much better than this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But it was weaponized.
Yeah.
Maybe more people should have to do that then. Read their own obituaries and reconcile their life.
Let's go back to the first question with all of this. We were talking about mental illness, weapon ownership, and stuff like that. And for the longest time, we were talking about red flag laws. And everybody on the right and all the 2A people were like, absolutely not. You cannot red flag people. And then the Nashville shooting happened. And all of a sudden, conservatives were like, we should not let these people have guns. And I'm just sitting here like, y'all are wrong.
Yeah. Well, so the mental that whole thing's interesting because the issue that I have with that whole conversation is by what standard and who gets to define if someone is mentally unwell. Because if I go to the right, doctor, clinician, or whatever, and I say, I really like guns for these reasons. This is what I actually think about the government. This is what I think about balkanization of our country, XYZ. They could say, you're a little unwell for thinking these things. You want to homeschool your kids. You're married. You're not running around doing all this other stuff. You're unwell. You can't own guns. Right. Now, I'm not saying that would happen today, but in 10 years, exactly. I mean, who gets to standardize who is mentally well? And so that's a pretty slippery slope.
This is why when a couple of years ago we were talking about felons and firearms, and I said, as soon as you get out of jail, you get your right to keep and bear arms.
Yep. I agree.
And what people responded with was several people, conservatives, were like, no, because you went through a process. You got your due process, and through due process, your rights were deprived. That is constitutional, meaning you have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but if you break the law, we can deprive you of those rights through due process, meaning you went to a judge, there was a hearing, you were found guilty. The same thing is true of your guns. And my response is then just like, so what is a life sentence then?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either you die or I guess you're in jail your whole life.
Yeah,
you don't get your gun back. You don't get your gun back ever. And so my issue still is now, due process isn't necessarily a perfect standard.
Right.
Because we are at the point of polarization in this country where, like you said, you will say something like, I think everybody should have guns. I'm like, well, you're clearly insane. So you can't have one.
I think machine guns should be legal. Okay.
I also wonder how the mental health screenings work because we have this shooter in Louisville whose parents were like, no, he was having some sort of crisis. We were aware of it. But he was able to get a gun. Theoretically, wouldn't this have triggered some? I feel like some people can. I just don't understand the practical applications of some of these things.
Yeah, and the problem is the government and people want to play Minority Report. They want to stop the crime before it happens. You can't do that. It doesn't actually work.
Oh, but it's coming.
I know. The AI, Chat GP7, whatever, is going to probably do it. But it's not practical and it's not going to work. And it's only going to cause... And we've seen this up north where red flag laws have gotten innocent people killed, where they show up to the doorstep, the guy comes out, there's an altercation. He's like, why are you guys here? I haven't committed any crimes yet. Ends up getting shot. There've been at least 2 of those that have happened. It's going to do more harm than good. And besides that, according to all these shootings that have happened, at least in the last 5 years, supposedly the FBI already knew about the person.
Yeah, they constantly
were already watching him. So it's like, well, it obviously doesn't work already. I mean, you guys have been trying to do this kind of.
I don't think the FBI tries to prevent crimes, right? They're just aware stuff is going on. But they're like, maybe we'll help you do that crime.
Yeah. It's a slippery slope, and it's not something that I think conservatives and people in general need to get away from and just go, when a crime happens, we have people there who can shoot back, and that's how we resolve it. Because we call the cops to resolve it while it's happening. Yep. So why not address it sooner when the incident actually occurs? And if we saw that happen more often, a lot of these shootings would go down. If people realize, hey, if we posted photos of the corpse of the shooter afterwards, kind of like what happened in Tennessee, a lot less of the shooter culture would be happening.
I mean, I don't know. I guess my concern is there are a lot of people with no purpose anymore and no community and no path towards notability.
Right.
And maybe notability is the wrong word, but people want recognition. Feeling value.
Yep.
And so they decide one way they'll make people remember their names so that they
going out
matter
with a bang. Yeah.
is being evil.
Yeah.
Because if they can't be a famous superhero, they'll just be the villain. That's the easiest path. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.